Okay. थैंक यू. इसमें थोड़ा लैग होता है ना. Hi students, hi learners. This is Professor Narasimhan of the Foundations of Entrepreneurship NPTEL course. I think we have finished 6 weeks. We've finished 6 weeks, and I hope you've been having a good time listening to the classes, attempting the assignments, and in parallel, trying to think of an idea that you will progress along the way as we teach you more and more. I'm happy to answer any queries that you have. I'm also happy to do a quick summary of the first 4 weeks if that will help you. I'm going to wait for a few minutes because it's almost never that everybody joins on time. So I'm going to wait for a few minutes. I'm going to look at if there are any questions that come up in the chat box here. Otherwise, I brought a summary of the slides, so maybe I will do that. So waiting for a few minutes. Tell me, how do I find out how many students, how many learners are here? Because in mine, I keep seeing a Zoom screen. No, I am seeing a chat box, which I think is the YouTube chat box. 2, 4. Okay. 4. So yeah, we are only 4 of us right now, so let's give it some time. I think people must be in the middle of work or classes or building something. So we'll give them another 5, 7. Excuse me. We'll give another 5 minutes before we actually start. Those of you who are online, it would help me if you write a little about whatever you have experienced in the first 6 weeks. I know it's not a tough course. I did not intend for it to be a tough course, but I'd like to hear whether you find it interesting. At 4:05, we will start looking at the summary of the last 2 weeks. And maybe when I show you the slides, some questions might come to you and you might want to ask them. But I'm going to give a few minutes for, in case other people want to join. Okay. I'm trying to figure from here, which is your name? No, yeah, you can ask this question and I'll answer. Actually, you don't need any book reference beyond the classes. If you want, the books are listed on the site. It's called The Lean Startup by Steve Blank, given you a couple of other references. But for the exams, just the lectures will be enough. And I hope you are doing your assignments every week. So yes, those are that's about all that you need. So I thought I'd try a different format, and it doesn't matter how many of you are there. I'm just going to flash some summary slides of 2 weeks. The first week was customer value, the week 3 was customer value proposition, and week 4 was new product development. I'll show you some key slides. I'll make a I'll do a kind of summary of those 2 weeks. And if some thoughts come to you and you want to ask, please go ahead. Um, okay, I am going to attempt sharing my screen. And my screen are slides which I've taken from from our classes itself. So week 3 was customer value proposition. I'm just going to browse the slides so that you understand what is it that this week was supposed to be. So in customer value proposition, the objective of it is to understand customer, to understand value, and to present it as a proposition. So how do you define customers? And for that, I had taught you segmentation, which is just grouping customers. None of us as entrepreneurs or even as intrapreneurs in large companies can serve all of society, so we have to define the segment that we will serve. And the segment is defined by their demographics, by their geography, where do they live, where do they come from, psychographic, which is a lifestyle variable, and behavior. I'll explain this once to you. So demographic is typically easy. We describe people as targeting young people, old people, middle-aged people, students, etc., etc. Occupation, again, income, occupation, suggesting what is their ability to buy. So very premium products, we will look for people with high income. Geography can be defined as a nation, as a region, southwest, north, central. It can be defined as urban India, rural India, semi-urban India, metros of India. So it can be as tight as we want. And psychographic is lifestyle, where we can talk about fashion conscious, health conscious, and things like that. I'm uh, purposely going to keep this short and tight so that those who want to ask a question are more than welcome to. This is a very important slide that investors look for. They want to know how large is the market, how many customers in that market, how many people can I reach with my sales channel. Imagine I had a offline sales channel that served Maharashtra or served only West Bengal. Then I can't reach other customers with the sales channel that I have decided upon. I typically encourage you to look at the target market. Yeah. The value proposition answers what is it that customers are looking for? What is it that competitors do not provide? And what is it that we as company or startup can provide? And this is just a format. So a product gives coffee lovers the satisfaction of drinking cafe kind of espresso coffee without having to go to a coffee shop and spending all that money. This is a written format of a proposition. So we answered the question, who is our target customer? We answered the question, what is the value they are looking for? And we are answering, how can this be best written or articulated for the customer? You can do it in a slightly more visual format than just text. We then spoke of business models, B2B, which is where a company sells to another company, B2C, a company sells to a end consumer, a user, a retail consumer. Direct to consumer is when you don't have a channel. And I know that when you come to go to market, which is coming up, you will be answering, these questions will be answered better. Business to government, and a multi-sided platform or an aggregator. Yeah. We look at revenue models, transaction, product sold once, that's called a transaction revenue. Recurring revenue, which is a subscription, weekly subscription, monthly subscription, quarterly subscription, annual subscription. The best form is where you sell, get a lot of money one time, which is called transaction, and then get recurring revenue. An example of this is a phone, a mobile phone or a refrigerator or a TV. The transaction is buying the television, and the recurring revenue could be maintenance charges that you pay, or think of it like a printer. The transaction is buying the printer, but the recurring revenue is buying the print, buying the toner, buying the ink, buying the toner, buying the cartridges. Freemium. Freemium model is like Spotify or Netflix. The base model is free, and every time you want something more, it becomes premium and it gets charged for. There is an ad-based revenue model. All of us are familiar. When we use Instagram or we use other social media sites, we don't pay for the usage of that app, but uh, advertisers show us advertising, and that's how Instagram or the parent company Meta gets its revenue. We went from customer value proposition into new product development. Again, like I said, it's just a summary. So what we tried to do was to get from a overall customer value proposition into benefits and features. So you could have a functional benefit, you could have an emotional benefit, and more often than not, customers buy for emotional benefits, not for functional benefits. If I take B2B, which is business to business, there also functional benefits are saves time, helps me grow the market, gets me information, good quality, and so on. Emotional benefits are like trust, reputation, the network that I will be able to reach, the success ratio, they are a responsible company, and so on. When we spoke of the product development process, we said that there were 4 phases. The first phase is called proof of concept. We are able to demonstrate that it is possible to be done technically. We then went on to prototype. In a prototype, there are 2 things. They're called form and function. A prototype starts looking like the final product, and it starts getting used like a product. So can it be used? Will it work? So both the design of it and the functionality of it is there in a prototype. It may not be the size of your final product. It may be much bigger than your final product, or it could be much smaller than your final product. MVP is a minimum viable product, which is where the first time the customer puts money to buy. Think of it like many of you are beta customers for an app. I'm sure gaming apps have reached out to some of you and said, will you be our beta customer? That is a minimum viable product. And it's a scrappiest product that a company can make, which can be bought. It's not fully loaded with features. It has the basic features to deliver on what it said it would do. And a production run is where you standardize your specifications. MVP becomes production when you go into large scale. Instead of making 10, I don't know, 10 chairs, they'll be making 1,000 chairs. Further, in 2 slides from now, I'll show you an example of Atomberg on each of these dimensions. So what is an MVP? It's a product which has enough features that can attract early adopter customers. And why do we do that? Because the product can never be perfect. The best feedback comes only from real users. It is possible to iterate, remove the bugs, and maximize learnings before investing big monies into manufacturing facilities as well as marketing and go-to-market monies. What are the possible MVPs? We could just make one website but not have multiple pages, just one landing page. We could do an app which does only one feature, doesn't have multiple features, can be an AI solution without the working model. All the data is not there. There are actually human beings doing the back end. For a physical product, a test market is a possible MVP. Here is MVP of Atomberg. Atomberg's a IT Bombay startup, and they make brushless DC, BLDC fans. They have launched other products now. They have a mixer grinder for the home, for the kitchen. So in their MVP, they did manual assembly. They didn't have an automated assembly for their fans. They had a feature which was remote, but that only did on off. It did not do other functions. They had a BLTC, which was energy efficiency. And in terms of looks, single model, single color. Today, multiple models, multiple colors, multiple designs. The core has stayed the same, which is that the motor is the BLDC motor. The remote is not just on off, but it's a fully functional remote. And assembly of this fan is no longer manual. It is done in a fully automated factory. Here is another reference of how the new product development goes. The first is a proof of concept. The product here is a digital stethoscope. So in the proof of concept, all the scientist, the doctor, and the engineer combination were trying to prove that you can convert this into digital signals. In a prototype, as you can see, there are some additional features. And finally, the product just looks like this with an app. We spoke about intellectual property. There are patents, there are trademarks and domain names, copyrights, trade secrets, etc. And a trademark is a sign that individualizes the good. So I can make out a Nike shoe differently from a Skechers shoe or an Adidas shoe or a Puma shoe. That is what a trademark means. It is to be distinctive and it should not try to deceive by looking like some other brand altogether. So these were the summary of the slides that I had brought for you. I wanted to show you that customer value proposition is targeting the right set of customers who have the problem and for whom there is value that is generated, and how a proposition is written. That's pretty much what customer value proposition is about. New product development is about going from a proof of concept to a prototype to a MVP, minimum viable product, to the production. So I have summarized 2 weeks for you in about 10-15 minutes. If you have anything you want to ask me, please go ahead and type your question. I'd be happy to answer any question. If you want to ask not just about this module, but others, happy to answer any question. I think this is the week of festivals. We had Raksha Bandhan 2 days back, and we live in Bombay, so we have a big festival coming up, which is Janmashtami, which Bombayites call Dahi Handi. I don't know if that's the reason we have lower participation today. I don't mind spending the time with you. And if anyone has a question, I'm going to wait for 5 minutes, take the question and try and give you an answer and then carry on. So if you have any question, do type in the chat box. You've released week 7. What is week 7? Mm-hmm. Week 7. Oh, you are week 6 and 7 are marketing and go to market. And hi, Vaishali. Is there something that I could? Yeah, is this Vaishali from Bangalore? And if you are, hi, good to see you. Good to read a comment from you. I hope the course is working well for you. Ravi, we can do one live session when week 7 is over.
Okay.
So maybe if you want to.
Ma'am, if you are not there, I can also do that
Ah.
because these are the questions.
I want to understand in e-commerce companies, comma, and I'm waiting for the rest of your question. You should do one after finance, actually.
Ma'am, because
Actually,
I
do.
can also handle
Handle,
the
yeah.
question.
Yeah.
So that continuity will be there.
Sure. Vaishali, are you asking me whether what is the kind of moat that e-commerce companies enjoy? I don't know whether you are talking about, so even within e-commerce, there are what are called horizontal e-commerce companies like Flipkart, Amazon, Meesho, Snapdeal, etc., where they sell all kinds of products. And there, the only moat they have is how wide is the products that they have, how many vendors do they bring on the site, and how are they able to attract customers onto their site. And yes, you are right, the market is large, but actually currently even all these e-commerce put together are covering about 8% of the Indian market. Okay, you're talking about grocery. Yes, in grocery they probably touch 2% of the market. So the market is very wide, so there's a lot of scope for them to grow. So whether it is Zepto, whether it is Blinkit, whether it is Big Bazaar, whether it is Swiggy, Instamart, all of them get top line, but all are struggling with bottom line. None of them make profits. So the succeed is a very multidimensional word. Revenue, yes, but not yet profit. And they're only 2% of the overall market. So yes, that's one of the reasons they, I think the moats can be built like, let's say, Mintra has built or Nika has built, which is being narrow about the domain they will work in. So whether it is fashion for Mintra or it is beauty products for Nika, they are the place to go to if you have a fashion need or if you have a beauty need. That makes them differentiated. Quick commerce, too early to say whether they are successful. Yes, you are right. They all have revenue, but none of them have profits. How will that business model work? Only going forward will we figure out. Thank you, Vaishali. Um, I'm going to log off unless I see another question. But between Dr. Ravi, who's the course coordinator and works with me, and myself, we will meet you all every couple of weeks on Monday, and make sure that we keep bringing to you our knowledge and answer any questions that you might have. Yes, it is essential to have a moat when the market is large. But all of that starts hurting you after you have reached some point on the S curve. If you are a small company and you set up, in fact, in many retail situations, Vaishali, the moat is not front end, the moat is back end. So Blinkit, Zepto, Instamart today are just trying to increase the number of dark stores that they have. Today, they all serve only the metro cities. But even today, those of us who've been using quick commerce for a while are able to make choices of which of these the vegetables are fresher, in which of these do I get a more premium brand available, and so on. So they are building their moats, but currently the market's so large that you don't need a moat. Everybody can sell here. It's only when the market gets competitive and there is small headroom to grow, do you need a differentiator. Okay, thank you, team. we'll see you in a couple of weeks when you would have done the go-to-market section. And then we'll see you again in a couple of weeks when you would have done the finance and accounting section. There is a backend mod, yes. Thank you. Good to have had you, and thank you for the questions. Take care.